The best plot twists make readers gasp and immediately want to reread your book. The worst ones make readers feel cheated and tempted to throw the book across the room. I'm Zara Hoffman, the founder of Inimitable Books, and in today's video, I'm going to talk about how to write plot twists that genuinely surprise readers without making them feel dumb. When a plot twist is written badly, it's because it came out of nowhere, so it feels random instead of satisfying, or it's so heavily foreshadowed that readers were able to see it coming from a mile away. The sweet spot to a plot twist is one that surprises readers in the moment, but makes complete sense in hindsight. When readers finish a book with a plot twist, they should be able to look back and see the clues that they missed, not feel like the author pulled a fast one on them. Any genre can benefit from a well-executed twist that deepens the story and complicates the protagonist's journey. And before we dive in further, I want to give a blanket spoiler warning for the following books and movies that I will be covering in this video. And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins, Knives Out, the Rian Johnson movie, Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson, The Turn of the Screw by Henry James, and Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. If you haven't experienced any of these and you don't want spoilers, now's your chance to pause this video and come back later. We have a lot of other videos on this channel that have writing advice and are much less spoiler-filled than this video. The cardinal rule of plot twists is that the readers need to have access to all the information needed to figure it out, even if they don't put it together right away. Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None is a gold standard for this. Upon a first read, the killer's identity is shocking, but every clue, especially the poem that mirrors the murder, is front and center in the story. And when you reread the book, knowing who did it, you can trace exactly how the killer accomplished everything. The information was never withheld, it was just brilliantly camouflaged among all the other suspicious behavior of everyone else. That's the art of good plot twist writing. It makes readers feel clever if they do manage to catch on before the final reveal, but they don't feel dumb if they don't catch it. They also don't feel cheated because there was nothing to catch in the first place. So you don't withhold crucial information from that the POV character knows. You can absolutely withhold information from the POV character, which would mean your reader then doesn't know. You don't want to introduce the twist element at the last minute. It will feel rushed, not planned, and not well written. Plant genuine clues that can be interpreted multiple ways. You don't want all your clues to only point in one direction because then that's too obvious, but in hindsight they should all point in that same direction so that it all makes sense and it doesn't feel like any piece is missing or out of place. And definitely hide your clues in plain sight by making them seem insignificant. You shouldn't do that with every single clue, but you definitely don't want people to put it all together too early. Then you have misdirection, which is about directing a reader's attention towards a false solution while hiding the real one in plain sight. The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins, like the Capitol within the world of Panem, demonstrates misdirection by making its audience focus on the love triangle while there is a fomenting rebellion. The love triangle isn't fake. The members of the Capitol actually aren't even aware that Gale exists, and President Snow wants to keep it that way. But it's a distraction from the real plot of overthrowing President Snow and all the corruption in the Capitol. It's the same way that President Snow uses the Victory Tour. It's the same thing that President Snow pulls in Book 2, Catching Fire, but I'm not going to go into that too much because I don't want to spoil the entire trilogy. A misdirect is very important in magic, writing plot twists, and also propaganda. You need to have a plausible explanation that fits the evidence, but isn't the true explanation. Use readers' expectations against them, and hide important clues in moments of high emotion or action when readers are easily distracted. Present the truth alongside less interesting information so it could be overlooked that upon a reread, readers would catch. And have your characters jump to a wrong conclusion that feels reasonable. Your misdirection needs to feel organic to your story, not forced. So you are tricking your reader but more in the way that you are letting them make assumptions and not correcting them. Every bit of misdirection has to be justified by the story. If a character is acting as a red herring, there should be a legitimate reason why they are behaving suspiciously, not just you, the author, needs a reason for readers to suspect someone else. Something I really love is the double twist, which is when you set up one twist and you reveal it early, and you hit them with another one that they didn't see coming. Something that I think did this perfectly is the movie Knives Out. I'm going to credit the Closer Looks excellent video essay on this that I watched years ago. It's going to be linked in the description down below. And it talks about how the film's main subversion is that it flips genre expectations. It actually flips genres according to the video. And that switch is the double twist. It starts as a whodunit, and then at the end of Act 1, we learn that, and here's the spoiler part of this example, Marta accidentally killed Har. The film becomes a thriller then about whether or not she's going to get away with it. By revealing the killer early, Knives Out weaponizes murder mystery tropes. We know the detective needs to eventually figure it out, and that becomes the tension we are nervous about, and we are rooting for Marta because we know she's a good person. But then we get the second twist later in the story that resurrects the original whodunit, the actual killer who orchestrated everything, and the fact that there might not have been a murder at all. Both plot threads collide during the climax, which shows that revealing a twist early doesn't always ruin your story. You don't want readers to figure something out early if you don't have a double twist planned, but if you have one planned, that is also a great way to misdirect them, because if they think they figured it out already, they're not going to be looking closely for clues of a second twist that they don't know even exists. Now, like everything we've been talking about, the double twist requires careful planning, but you're doubling your work because both twists need to be earned and make sense, and you can't just pile them on for shock value. Each one needs to deepen the story and raise the stakes, and they also need to make sense together if you're going to do a double twist. You need to plant clues for the first twist throughout the first part of the book, and then once that's revealed around the midpoint, you need to give a little bit of room to process. We talk about this in our pacing video. And when everyone's guard is let down, you start planting seeds for the second twist where they're not going to notice it. And then you reveal the second twist during the third act so that readers are on board with the character when they have the pivot moment of a new understanding of what has happened and what needs to happen next. When we have a plot twist about a character, it often hits harder than ones that are just about external events because we're emotionally invested in these fictional people. Mary E. Pearson's Kiss of Deception has 3 point of view characters. We have Leah, who is a runaway princess because she didn't want to marry a prince in an arranged marriage, and then 2 young men that she meets. One is the prince she was supposed to marry, and the other is an assassin who was sent to kill her to prevent that marriage from happening. We're in all 3 of their heads. Both men fall in love with Leah, but we don't know which is which. Pearson never lies. The clues are actually in their thoughts when you do a reread, but they are cleverly ambiguous and not obvious at all. The reveal comes pretty towards the end, and I went through so many flip-flops of thinking it's this character or this character who's the assassin. And I did eventually get it correct, but that's because I have pretty good plot recognition compared to some other people. But it still took me a while, and that is a testament to her writing. That's what makes character twists powerful. They've duped you, and you need to reevaluate everything that you already experienced with them because you thought you understood and then have learned that you didn't know anything. But for character twists to work, you need to establish the character's surface presentation in a way that it seems deep and it seems completely genuine. If readers don't believe the initial characterization, the twist isn't going to hit as hard, if at all. The revealed truth should be supported by the behavior and their dialogue throughout the story, but it requires extra knowledge to have the correct interpretation that readers didn't have earlier on in the story. Then we have the unreliable narrator. It can be amazing when done well, and it can be done very wrong very easily. Henry James's The Turn of the Screw is an amazing example of this done right. The governess is narrating her time watching these children at a home and is experiencing supernatural events. She sees ghosts, she's convinced the children are possessed, and that she is in increasing danger. Her hysteria is escalating, and other characters don't see what she sees. There's ambiguity in every supernatural occurrence, and readers still debate whether or not the ghosts were ever real. That ambiguity is the point. It's unreliable perception, not deception. The clues are in her increasing paranoia, in how others react to her, in the gaps between her perception and reality. Now, it is Gothic fiction, so some people argue that they are all gaslighting her, which could be true, but this unreliable narrator makes this story so much more interesting. Unreliable narrators are when the narrator doesn't have all the facts and fills in the gaps with assumptions. I talked about this earlier with the misdirection. The narrator is biased and interprets events through their worldview and then gives that to readers. Now, this is normally the case if you're writing in or close third person, but in this case, their interpretation is not close to reality. You are actually warping their view so that you're warping the reader's view. Oftentimes in fiction, they tie this into psychological problems of the character, whether it be a semi-autobiographical book like I Never Promised You a Rose Garden by Joanne Greenberg, or a fictional book. And then also the narrator could have memory issues or trauma affecting their recall. So it's unintentional that they are messing things up. Whatever reason you have behind your narrator being unreliable, it needs to be rooted in psychological realism. Why is this narrator unreliable? The reason should be established early and be consistently demonstrated. Even if you don't say why they are unreliable, when the story is reread, it should be clear as day. For an unreliable narrator to work, there must be clues like every other type of plot twist I've been talking about in this video. There should be inconsistencies with what they are experiencing and the reality of the other characters, and they themselves might admit to memory gaps or bias. You need to give readers hints that in retrospect, the unreliable nature wasn't ever fully hidden. Now, let's talk about when you're supposed to reveal your twist. We talked about how the double twist needs an early reveal and a late reveal. But a great point for a reveal is at the midpoint. Daphne du Maurier's Rebecca demonstrates why a midpoint twist works so well, and that's because in the first half, we believe that Rebecca was the perfect wife. Then halfway through, Maxim reveals the truth. Rebecca was cruel and manipulative, he never loved her, and this midpoint reveal transforms the Gothic mystery into a psychological thriller. The narrator's understanding of her marriage, Mrs. Danvers, the entire situation shifts completely. And because the twist comes at the midpoint, there's time to explore the consequences and see how this truth changes everything going forward. You have three options for when to place your plot twists. You have the early one in the first act, you have the midpoint one, and the late one. The early one reframes everything going forward and creates new questions and can change what type of story you are telling. And it works well when the story is about dealing with the consequences of that early revelation. You have the midpoint twist. This is often the best placement for major twists because you have time to build up to it with all your red herrings and also time to explore the implications. But then you have the late twist, which is in the final third of your story, and it recontextualizes everything that came before, and it creates urgency for resolution because operating under those false assumptions creates problems for the character and you want them to be able to solve them. So you are answering questions that have been building, and it works the best when the twist is the key to solving the main problem of the story. Now, there is a secret fourth option, which is in the final pages of your book. And this is a really high risk, but if you do it well, it can be amazing. But it really only works if adding meaning, but it only works if it adds meaning to your story without requiring significant additional plot resolution. An example of this is The Life of Pi, where you get the end and then you kind of get a second end, which recontextualizes the beginning, but it doesn't need a ton of resolution on its own. So consider what your story needs. If your twist is the whole point of the story, revealing it too late can cause you to rush your ending and cheat readers. Mistakes that I see most often regarding plot twists are the twist requires the characters to be stupid. Anytime your plot hinges on character stupidity, I'm going to be putting it down, and I know a lot of readers will too. The twist contradicts established facts. You can recontextualize facts, but you can't contradict them. Readers are going to notice, and they're going to think you either are gaslighting them or made mistakes in your own writing. The twist that serves no purpose except to shock. Every twist that you write needs to deepen the story and raise the stakes or complicate character dynamics. You don't want it just for shock factor. Fourth, twists that undermine each other. This kind of goes back to the contradicting facts. If one twist works on its own and then you have a second twist but it undermines the first twist, then that's sloppy writing. Each twist needs to build on the previous one, maybe complicate previous ones, but they can't negate them. If your twist relies on massive coincidence, then you did plan it well, and that twist is going to feel like Deus Ex Machina to the reader because you made that coincidence happen in the writing of your story. It doesn't feel inevitable in retrospect like it should. Introducing the twist element too late. You could introduce it late at high risk, but no matter what you do, you should not be introducing a major character who has never been seen at any point in the story and then reveal they were behind everything. The elements of your twist should be present throughout the story so readers can actually pick up on it upon a reread. Over-explaining the twist. Once you reveal it, trust readers to understand the implications. You don't need to spend 3 chapters having characters explain how everything fits together. You do need to give them space to digest that information and change their behavior going forward, though. Having a twist that doesn't change anything. If you can remove the twist and the story works the same way, then it's not a twist, it's a surprise that maybe doesn't even need to be. Real twists completely reshape the understanding of the entire story, what came before and what came after it. So, if you're looking at your own plot twists, here's what you should be checking for. You need to make sure your clues start early and are organically woven into the story. You want to make sure they're not too clustered or too obvious. And then you also want to make sure that they are obvious enough in retrospect. Second, you need to create a plausible misdirection that doesn't require lying to your readers. What false conclusions might readers draw, and then how do you shape them to go down that wrong path, but then still be able to recognize, oh, this was the real thing once you reveal. Imagine you had a reader with eidetic memory who could recall every single clue that you leave in your book. If they had that perfect recall, would they be able to solve your mystery? Most readers aren't going to be like that, but this imaginary reader needs to be able to say yes. You also need to make sure that your twist deepens the story rather than just shock. Make sure you're timing your reveal for maximum impact. Consider multiple placement options and think through how each one would affect your story. Check for character consistency. Does your twist character's behavior throughout the story make sense in light of the revelation when it eventually is revealed? And finally, test it on actual readers. You should start with critique partners if you have them, and if not, alpha readers and then beta readers. Do they see it coming? Do they feel cheated? Do they want to reread the story? When you nail a plot twist, readers will want to immediately go back to the start and then go through again to catch all the clues they missed. If they don't have that reaction, you have some revision ahead of you. If this video helped you think about plot twists differently, make sure you've watched the earlier videos in this playlist on pacing and cliffhangers because those techniques work together with plot twists to keep readers engaged. Be sure to like and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any future videos, especially the next video, which is all about identifying which scenes in your story actually need to be there versus what is just filler. Because sometimes the best plot twist in being an author is finding out you need to cut a lot of your story to make it better. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.